Hey everybody, I am ARMR, and what I watched today is Reboot Season 2, Episode 6, ANDRAIA, the episode that introduces my favorite character in the series. We open up on Binomes reenacting a previous episode. Badly. But hilariously so, complete with overacting and attempting Shakespearean flair. I love the Binomes costumes. It's quite creative how the artists reimagined our heroes and virus in binome forms, including in some spots doubled icons. It's hilarious, like seeing how the binomes basically pasted stuff on themselves to look like our heroes. As the sequence says, we pulled out to reveal that Enzo was watching it on Mike TV the whole time. Oh, wait, wrong Mike TV. There we go. We get a commercial for another reenactment complete with a flub line, like I just did there, that made me just chuckle.
I'm a gardener! I know everything!
So it's gardeners that know the secrets of the universe. Don't think that's accurate. We get a bit of exposition as Enzo complains that there are no sprites like him, whether by age or non-binome. Dot is always busy, and Bob is often in games where Enzo is currently not supposed to be following him. It sets up an interesting conflict and plays off what Bob and Dot said in the previous episodes. They want to keep Enzo out of games because they're not safe. But he may be safer now, but he's kind of lonely and feeling left out now that he can't join his hero in the games. Bob returns from the current game in short order, and in his subversion of the show's usual trope, Enzo completely misses when he tries to tackle Bob in greeting. In this scene, we also get Bob berating binome versions of Kirk and Picard. This show really loves to reference Star Trek. While not obvious by their appearances, though their appearances are really well done, this next clip makes it quite apparent who they're supposed to be.
Why'd you do it? I had to, mister. And all he did was keep saying, make it so.
And engage. I said engage more times than make it so, actually.
We get an expositional moment of Bob talking with Dot about the other city and the tragedy that turned it into Lost Angles. Apparently, that tragedy is the reason why Enzo has no sprites his age to play with. Dot's dad was attempting some currently unknown experiment, and it backfired horribly. And to balance that out, we get a quick joke.
Tea Earl Grey. What in the net is Tea Earl Grey? Oh!
Apparently, Mainframe doesn't have Earl Grey tea. The humanity. Just the humanity. The jokes pile on as Enzo states that Frisket is his own dog and could be anywhere doing anything, and we get a shot of him fighting alongside Captain Capacitor's crew on a pirate ship. This joke genuinely made me laugh. I was not expecting it in the slightest, and it just was completely out of left field for me. And it was great. Like, it's pretty clear that it's mostly in Enzo's head what he thinks Frisket is doing when he's not around. Or maybe it's what Frisket is actually doing. Who knows? But I loved it. This joke is then balanced by Enzo flipping out and blaming his dad / the tragedy of his dad's failed experiment for deleting the other sprites. The only issue I have with this is I'm not sure if it's ever been referenced before how Lost Angles got destroyed like that. Then again, we're only just over halfway into the second season, so this is about the time most shows start adding in back details like this. The first season was kept mostly fun, since after all it is a show mostly targeted to kids, but now that they have an audience, the show's creators were able to go in a more detailed direction and take it a bit darker. Give us a more fleshed out world with stakes and loss. We move on to Bob giving a lecture about game safety, and we get an awesome Indiana Jones reference. This lecture is really cool. It teaches a lot about how games work in this world. Well, foreshadowing the big addition this episode will bring later, and the explanation of a new type of game sprite, AIs, who think for themselves and adapt to how the user plays. After the lecture, Fong comes forth with a less than helpful suggestion for Enzo's plight. Build him a robot buddy. Dot says Enzo needs a real friend, and I think that's offensive to robotics. After all, to probably misquote Johnny Five, I am real. Johnny Five is alive. Sorry, I love that movie. I had to do it. Anyway, this debate about robo-buddies is quickly ended as a game warning fills the air. The game's descending on the diner, and we get a blink and you'll miss it reference. That's right, I found Waldo! I absolutely love the design of this game. Enzo reboots into a sub in a captain's uniform, complete with a sick eye patch. The sub itself is an awesome fish design, and the water effect is beautiful. I gotta give another shout out to the animators on Reboot. It's such a beautiful show. Bob and Dot barely make it into the game themselves and reboot into these awesome merpeople forms, complete with sea-themed superpowers. Bob has electrical blast, and Dot's trident can create vortexes and piranha mines, whatever those are. We do get a few fun jokes based on the fact that they share a telepathic connection, though I do have a slight complaint about these jokes. They rely on that pop culture stereotype that men are unable to control themselves and are constantly thinking about sex. And it's basically just Dot chastising Bob for thinking naughty things about her. And it just, yeah, it's playing on a really tired pop culture stereotype even by the time this show came out. Next, we see the user's ship. In this game, I gotta admit, it is really cool. It's got a great in-genre shark design. It's also here that we get our first look at the title character of this episode, ANDRAIA, as she launches an attack that rips right through the user's ship. Admittedly, the user turns around and blasts her. And if not for Enzo's intervention at this time, she would have been deleted. Dot and Bob take their own crack at the user, with Dot's piranha mine having an awesome effect. Sadly though, it's not enough to take down the user, as this is one of those games where he has multiple lives. 15 is just excessive. We get a brief aside to Enzo checking on ANDRAIA, naturally waking up to a strange guy hovering over her. ANDRAIA bares her claws at Enzo, shocking him a bit too. Naturally, once they get talking, Enzo's like, cool, claws, what can they do? Like, he's just geeking out over her, and it's just awesome. Enzo starts trying to lie and impress her, claiming that he's a guardian from the net. I get it's the first sprite at his age he's met in, forever, and he wants to make friends. He's trying to make himself sound cool, but this is one of those lies that you just know is going to backfire on him at some point. Meanwhile, Bob and Dot are making great strides in defeating the user, but it's a Sisyphean struggle. They're trying to tear down the sheer number of lives the user has, and it's just not going well. Every time they knock him down, the user just respawns immediately. And we turn to Enzo, adding on to his lies, as he recounts the tale of his damsel reboot, but he puts Bob in the damsel's role. Sure, these lies will turn on him eventually, but I can kind of understand where he's coming from. He's so desperate to make a friend that he's unfortunately assuming that who he really is won't be good enough. Enzo, you're a great guy. I've made this mistake too in the past. But, yeah, fortunately he does come clean eventually and makes on his own the, necessary moves. He shows that he himself, as himself, is awesome, which he is. And I do like that that shows like this do try to teach this lesson that if you really want to be friends with someone, just be yourself. That's probably going to be good enough. The two sprites make a great team. Between ANDRAIA's innate knowledge of her world and the equipment Enzo rebooted into, they take down the user's ship on their own. And unfortunately discover what Bob and Dot already knew. The user has lives. After a bit more effort from Bob and Dot, it looks like all is lost. The user even pops out speed boosters as they close in on the treasure. But Enzo crashes into the user, buying them precious time to save the day. At least that's how it looks, but the tension mounts once more. They are really good at keeping this high tension in this episode. As the user revives once more with yet another life, Enzo's ship is disabled by the crash, not to mention Bob and Dot are trapped by giant tentacles. It's now when Enzo finds out ANDRAIA doesn't know what nullified means. He realizes she's a game sprite. She has no concept of the danger that him and the others are in. It's a well-written moment. Enzo's despair at realizing his first potential friend is a game sprite who will leave if the game win or lose, and ANDRAIA trying to tell him something else that he won't listen to before she paralyzes him, and then fires him at the treasure, winning the game and stopping the user. Even knowing what I know about the future in this series, it's a really sad moment as you see ANDRAIA floating there saying goodbye to Enzo. having sacrificed her friendship with him to save him from the game. However, we do find out a moment later that she saved a copy of herself on Enzo's icon, essentially writing him out of the game. It's clever, both from a writing standpoint and from a standpoint of her character. She's an AI, she learns, and she figured that out on her own, that she could write him out on the game, or at least she figured that it was a possibility. And it's also clever from a writing standpoint because it both lets her be with him in the end, and yet doesn't cheapen her sacrifice. After all, this is a copy that came out of the game. The original her, which will probably be rewritten when the game is downloaded again, sacrificed her connection to Enzo. Yeah, there's a version of her that gets to live on and be friends with him, but that's all. And it was a really touching moment, and really well done, because it gives you both outcomes, really. Like, I love this bit of writing. And they share another of the episode's awesome line in response to this.
You can do that? Apparently. Cool.
That's another moment in the episode that just genuinely made me laugh. Anyhow, this was an extremely great episode. I just loved it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.